He does. Because He's not here. He didn't call us to be a church to sit and get cozy with Jesus and have cuddle time with Jesus with our awesome praise band that's on YouTube and to hear from speakers and to have little kids programs and no. This is not what Jesus is doing. I hope that you can sense my frustration with traditional church because it aggravates me. And I don't think that Jesus would have us do things the norm. Nothing about us has been normal so far. So, but I don't want to be an army of half-hearted, flaky religious people. This is not, let me tell you what this is not. This is not going to be some nice community organization. No, we're doing this as Decided Church. This is not an arm of our church. This is not just our nonprofit community thing over here that some people volunteer on Thursday nights to do. No, this is Decided Church. We're doing this on Sundays as church. We're going to go do this in the community. This is a commitment. This is a choice. This is an action. All those things that the word decide means. So, before I get you all excited about this, before I talk you into it, let me talk you out of it first, right? That's what I came here to do. Let me give you every opportunity to opt out now. Let me give you every reason. I'm going to give you every reason not to do this. Following Jesus costs. It costs a lot. It's not cheap. It's not comfortable. It's not glorious. It's not safe. It's not cozy. Instead, it's uncomfortable. It's going to be demanding. It's going to be daily. It's going to be risky. It's going to be humbling. It's going to be unappreciated. It's going to be mocked. It's going to be ridiculed. It's going to be persecuted. It's going to be lonely. It's going to be isolating. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be weary. It's going to be exhausting. So what does it cost? What does following Jesus cost? We know what the word means. We know what we're deciding to do. What does it cost? Well, like with any important decision, what do you do when you have an important decision? You make a list, right? You make a pro-con list. So we're going to make a pro-con list. What does it cost? Is following Jesus worth it? We're going to do the pros first, and we're going to cover the cons second. So let's look at our passage of Luke chapter 9. Remember verse 23 and 24, Luke 9. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. Here's our only pro. The only thing on this side is found in verse 24. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. That's the only pro. All we have, that's the only pro. All we have is this promise from a God who gave himself for us, that we would have a life that counts, that's worth it. He promises that he came to give us that kind of abundant life full of joy. So, that's the only pro. That's the only thing on this side. Let's look at the cons. Pretty much the rest of the entire chapter. Number one, I'm going to try to fly through these. So you guys look at your passage, I'm going to write, okay? So the first one is you have to take up your cross, right? The cross is a symbol of shame. It's a symbol of embarrassment. The Romans, the Phoenicians, they crucified people. So the cross in this passage is talking about the shame and the embarrassment and the ridicule that comes with being a Jesus follower. The cross. It also says you have to take it up daily, right? It's a commitment. Being a Jesus follower is not, there's no parole date. You don't follow Jesus for 4 years and then your parole date comes up and you're like, okay, I can check out. I've done my time. I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate being your disciple for these 4 years. No, that's not discipleship. You cannot claim to be a disciple if you're living your life like that. It's a daily commitment. What else? Talk to me. What else is in here? Let's go to the 5th chapter, verse 57, Luke 9:57. You have to deny yourself. Right? That means crucifying the flesh. That means putting to death your selfish desires. We don't have time to turn there, but you can write down and you can look up Romans 6, 11 through 14. You can look up Romans 8, 12 through 13. Those verses talk about crucifying the flesh, putting to death your selfish desires. What else does the passage say? You lose your life, your dreams, your goals. No longer yours. You can't have that. You can't dream about that. You can't set goals. It's not your life. Some verses for that is Galatians 2:20, Romans 12:1 and 2, and 2 Corinthians 5:14 through 17. Galatians 2:20, Romans 12:1 and 2, and 2 Corinthians 5:14 through 17. In this specific passage, we see that no place to call home, right? You don't get to tell Jesus where you're going to follow him to. You don't have a place to call home. If he tells you to drop and go, you have to drop and go, whether it means Ethiopia, Lexington, South Carolina, Maine, Vancouver, Canada, Africa. Following Jesus means you don't have a place to go home. That means that if God calls me and Alyssa to give up the land that we have through her family, we plan to set aside that land and build a house on it one day. If God calls us away and we have to just sell all, that's what we have to do. Because we're following Jesus and we go where he goes, right? This passage also says you don't get to say goodbye. Now say goodbye. Okay, that works. What else? You don't get to fulfill your family/social responsibilities. This man wanted to bury his father. He wanted to stick around long enough to see his dad die and go on. Cannot be a disciple like that. You relinquish your family and social responsibilities. You don't get those anymore. We already covered that's not a parole date. And then it also says in that chapter 14 passage that we read, if you want to turn over there really quick. The cost of discipleship, the cost of following Jesus. In verse 25, he says that your love looks like hate. The passage is not saying that you hate your father, that you hate your mother. It's saying that the amount of love you have for them looks like hate compared to how committed you are to Jesus Christ. If you're becoming a Jesus follower, this commitment and this loyalty and this passion so far outweighs and dims your love for this worldly possessions and your family and your mother and your brother. It looks like hate. I can't even understand that. And then it also says that you have to renounce everything, doesn't it? At the end, the very last verse of this chapter. No, not the very end. Verse 33. So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. We could go on and on with this side of the board. There's more and more and more. So why? Why would you follow a God with all these cons and only one pro? Why in the world would you make that crazy decision to follow Jesus when you're going to have to bear your cross daily, deny yourself, lose your life, dreams, goals, aspirations, no place to call home. No, you cannot say goodbye. Your love looks like hate. You have to renounce everything. Why would you follow God like that? Why would you want to? The takeaway is that following Jesus costs you everything. Following Jesus is a suicide mission. Becoming a Jesus follower is a suicide mission. You are giving up your life. You are killing your life, your dreams, your goals. You're denying yourself no place. You are becoming nothing and letting Him become your everything. Let's look at 4 examples really quick of people who decided that this was worth it. They decided that Jesus was worth it. They decided that the one pro was worth it and follow Jesus. Really quickly, I'm going to read these verses to you. You can turn there if you want. But the first example is Elisha. The Bible says, so he departed from there. This is Elijah now. So Elijah departed from there and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen in front of him, and he was with the 12th. Elijah passed by him and cast his cloak upon him. And he left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, let me kiss my father and mother, and then will I follow you. And he said to him, go back again, for what have I done to you? And he returned from following him, took the yoke of oxen and sacrificed them and boiled the flesh, and with the yokes of the oxen gave it to the people, and they ate, and he rose and went after Elijah and assisted him. Elijah called Elisha, which, by the way, he was not qualified. Do you see any qualifications for becoming a Jesus follower here? Was he uber talented? Was he already a prophet? No. All he knew how to do was plow in a field. And Elijah called him. There's no special calling. You don't have to be somebody to follow Jesus. But you do have to count the cost. And you do have to leave your plow in the field. Elisha followed Jesus, Elijah, and he had to leave his plow in the field. So, what's your plow? What is it? Because following Jesus' direction, you're going from point A to point B, right? You're leaving. So what is your plow in the field that's keeping you here? What are you going to have to leave behind to follow Jesus? There's a lot on here, but make it more specific for yourself. Following Jesus requires you to leave your plow in the field. Okay, let's move on. Daniel. Daniel chapter 1. Verse 8. The Bible says, Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine that he drank. Therefore he asked the chief of the eunuchs to allow him not to defile himself. Daniel in this passage decided to follow Jesus. He decided it was worth it to stick out and be odd. But he was doing it because he knew it was right. He was doing it because it's what God wanted him to do. And then he had his buddies, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, do the same thing. Daniel was willing to choose the road less traveled. Everybody was eating the king's meat and drinking the king's wine. That was supposed to make you big and strong and make the king choose you, you know? Daniel said, I'll take the vegetables and the water. Is that anybody's workout plan here, vegetables and water, to get buff? No, it's not going to happen. You don't get buff on vegetables and water. You get buff on meat. Sorry, Chris. I know he differs with me a little bit.